you may have a great strategy on paper, okay? You mapped everything out. Let's say you have everything on your paid media cube. You know exactly who to target. Everything looks perfect. But the problem is that the major ad platforms are pretty complex. There are a lot of knobs. There are a lot of options out there, a lot of settings. And if you're not doing this full time, or at least if you're not spending enough time on those platforms, you can make a lot of mistakes. So your intended traffic can be completely different from the real traffic that you're getting. Okay, so let's start with the first mistake. And this is kind of my pet peeve. And a lot of marketers say that keywords are used, actually, keywords are used interchangeably with search term. In reality, it's not true. So keywords don't equal search terms. So search terms are what people actually type into the search engines when they're looking for answers. So this is the real market stuff. You have your audience typing in different words into the search terms, and boom. Keywords are for marketers to trigger those search terms in your ads. So you have to think about keywords and match types on how you target the search terms. So you need to shift your mindset from using, or from even thinking at the keyword level, to thinking at the search term level. And this will save you a lot of money, because this is where a lot of marketers fail, and this is where they lose a lot of money. So I will give you an example of one client campaign. This is a search term report for one of the clients. They sell kitchen cabinets. So in this particular example, that you can see that there's a good match between the keywords that you can see here, kind of like in the middle column, and the search terms. So there's a close match. We're targeting exactly what we want to target, and then we can measure the performance based on that. Then if there's a problem, the problem becomes with the actual search term, because market does not care about that search term. There's not enough of intent. Now let's take a look at the bad match. This is a bad example. Let's take a look at the keyword. So this is an industrial client, and they sell big equipment, very expensive equipment. So here's the keyword, metal crusher. Now this keyword triggers aluminum can crusher. Two different products. This is kind of like more a consumer type of product. This is the industrial product. So they've spent close to $300, but then when you look into that, poor match. And if you're looking into the keyword level, you're thinking, well, this keyword is not working, right? But in reality, it's triggering the wrong search term, and that's why your keyword is not working. I will give you another example. If we're talking about industrial screw conveyor, there's another example. So it's triggering screw conveyor, which may be very different from the industrial one. Let me give you another example. Let's say, okay, so here we go. Helix screw conveyor. Let's see if they're selling a product. Their search term is triggering the parts. So you may not care about that. So you want a closer match between your keywords and search terms, and that has to do with your keyword strategy and using different match types, okay? What type of match type you're using to trigger the right keyword. But that's why I consider very important to be looking into the search terms first, and then see if your keywords are triggering the search term that you want to trigger. So how do you find the search terms? It can be done relatively easily. So let me show you. You can go under your keywords tab in AdWords, and there's a search terms button here. So it will open up a report with all of the search terms, and you'll see a very similar view. So once you get into that view, your action item is to analyze them and take an appropriate action. And I like to bucket them into different categories, okay? So you can have relevant search terms with good KPIs. So this is an opportunity to expand. You can add them as an exact match keywords, and you can modify bids for them. You can get more traffic from those particular areas, because you know that there are good keywords and good search terms that you want to focus on. Now, I would like to flip everything to the opposite side, because you'll also have irrelevant search terms that you don't want to target. So let's say you're targeting something completely different because maybe you're using a broad match keyword. You want to exclude those search terms entirely from your account because you want nothing to do with them. So you'll have to add them as negative keywords. And of course, you'll find some terms that are in the middle. So you'll have relevant search terms, but they have poor KPIs. And of course, those need a bit more time, okay? So you need to analyze them. You need to add them to your account, make sure that maybe you have them as keywords, and then you monitor them until you get enough of statistically significant data. So you can then decide what to do next. You can change bids. You can maybe even create different ad groups for them with specific ads, meaning that you change your strategy a bit. You have a different offer for those keywords until you make them work, or you exclude them if you don't see that they would work. So that's how you handle them. Now, here's another one, very similar. You may be intending to target a certain location, but the problem is that locations are not the same as user locations. So in AdWords and many other areas, same thing even with Facebook or even Bing ads, you have different settings for different locations. So AdWords settings have 3 different options for targeting locations. You have your physical location, which we would probably expect, which is based on users' IP address, GPS signals, and many other factors, which pretty much pinpoint where physically you're located. And then you would be serving ads to those particular people within that defined location. There's also location of interest. So here's what it means. So you can have a person out of the country searching for a keyword within the country or within a specific location. So for example, you can have a person in India, for example, searching for sushi supplies in Chicago. And if you have this option enabled, you're going to trigger an ad to that particular person. So if you don't sell internationally, this person may be irrelevant. And of course, it really depends on your business. You will need to let the numbers speak to your results, but make sure that you analyze that and you understand the difference. And of course, there's a third option. So in this particular example, this account had both. So it had physical location and it also had location of interest. So the first step to fixing a potential problem in intended versus real traffic is awareness. So you need to run a report. It's called a geographic report, which would tell you what location types you are triggering. So this will help you to understand and kind of run the numbers and see if the traffic that you're getting and the locations that you're getting traffic from are relevant and if they are producing results. As you can see here in this particular example, well, actually, location of interest is doing pretty well. Actually, maybe even better than, well, actually not maybe, but even a lot better than physical location. So you would need to investigate that, and maybe you can even scale that. Maybe you can add that location of interest to your targeting so you can actually get more of that traffic. Now, here's how to identify, or here's the traffic that could be triggered from location of interest, but it may not be relevant. So let's say you run a user locations report and you identify that you're having some traffic that you don't care about. So in this particular case, we ran a report. This company is targeting United States and Canada, but let's take a look. User locations report tells us that we're getting traffic from India. We're getting traffic from UK, Mexico, Brazil. There's no cost in here, but it's maybe too small. And then Philippines. If you don't deal with these countries, if you don't ship to those countries, well, you know what? It's time to exclude them and it's time to save some money on your ad spend. And then you can reinvest more into the locations that you want to target. How do you find user locations report? You need to go into dimensions, and then there's user locations report, and boom, you click that. So once you're in your campaign or multiple campaigns, you can zoom in, and there's also a way to add more columns right here. So you can actually get a more specific country. So you can actually zoom in and you can say, all right, well, let me target states within the United States, or let me target some specific cities within the United States. And then based on that, you can identify if numbers make sense for you, if those locations are actually producing results for your Shopify store. Once you identify the problem, time to analyze those locations. So we'll use a very similar approach as we did with the search term report. So we'll focus on relevant locations with good KPIs, okay? So I like to use primary and secondary locations. So kind of like primary, they're kind of like more money metrics, which is, you know, conversions, cost per conversion, and the secondary, which is clicks and click-through rate. So once you see the good metrics, it's time to expand. You're getting good traffic, you can actually expand and you can get more of it. Now, if we flip everything again, you'll have some irrelevant locations that I briefly explained before that you don't want to target at all. So you can exclude them entirely from your campaigns. And of course, you'll find some locations that are relevant, but they have poor or kind of like average KPIs. So similar as we did with search term report, you will add them and you'll manage them separately. So you get more data and then you'll make a decision once you get enough data. But you'll at least have relevance and you'll have awareness on what you want to do with those particular locations. So after you've analyzed everything, and let's say, you know, we'll use our Sushi King example. So we did clean up some traffic. So we get rid of some traffic that was not relevant. So we get rid of irrelevant traffic from all of the stages. And we were also able to find out that some keywords were not doing well, so we reduced the cost per click in all areas. So overall, we'd reduce our cost per click by about 20% overall. We were able to reinvest the traffic and get more traffic within each stage from the same budget. We have, as you can see here, the budget is the same, but the budget has shifted between different stages, okay? So based on that budget, given that there's an opportunity, we get more traffic, okay? How did that impact us? Of course, more traffic with conversion, our new conversion rate got us more customers, okay? So more customers resulted in more profit, and of course, our return on ad spend has increased significantly.